Hi, welcome to a new stream. I hope everything works all right because I couldn't help myself and fool around and come up with some new Twitch design. So I hope you can hear me all right. I hope you can see everything so far. So let's rename that to Vox. And okay, so today I wanted to talk about something when it comes to rhythmic ideas. Because most of the time, I mean, you always hear that melody is king, that, and of course it's very important, but what would melody be without rhythm? Because, I mean, you could still have rhythm without notes. I mean, of course, if you knock on wood or anything, or on my head or whatever, you would somehow have a pitch, but most of the time it's, or mostly it's just rhythm. There is not really a length to anything, but you can have these hits. And with melodies, of course, they're important too. When you go to the cinema, you most likely remember the melodies and the patterns and not the rhythm itself. But when you see, let's say, people who aim to write really, sophisticated orchestral music, for example, most of the time the tracks are always sort of in 4/4. And sometimes I find it a little bit boring because you could do so much more with rhythm. And just let me know in the chat if you can hear and see me all right, and if everything works as intended, because I'm really not sure. In general, everything should be okay with the audio. So can you all also hear that I'm playing some drums right now? With the cymbals. Up here. Okay, cool. So what I tried to come up with is some sort of a system. It's not really a system, it's just a helpful thing to do when you want to write something which is not just, let's say, boring 4/4, but when it is in 4/4, it become a little bit more interesting, and also not just aiming towards playing something in 4/4 or composing something in 4/4, but also don't take care about what you come up with. So don't, try to come up with something. I have to write something in 5/8 or in 7/8, but have it come naturally to you. And a very helpful thing I'm using is it derives from the Indian counting. As far as I know, it's like when you hear these traditional percussionists or traditional instrumentalists counting, they always do this takati taka takati taka, something like this. So I don't claim to know this system, but I just like to, let's say, borrow this concept or this method of using groups of 3 and groups of 2 whenever I count or want to come up with something. And you just combine 2 and 3 in whatever combination you want. So the easiest would be, of course, 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2, because this would be, let's say, a 4/4 or a 8/8 or a 4/8 or whatever. Okay, so but it can be also quite more different and interesting when you come up with different things. So the easiest example would be to come up with something like, let's say, let's use these patterns 1 2 3 1 2. So this would obviously be a 5/4. So you would count 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2, and you also have. Let me just split this here a little bit. Let me set the tempo track in here so I can show this better. And also the signature track. So we make this for now, well, let's say we make it here, we make it 5/8. So so when you usually write music or you try to come up with something, you would get that, grid to 5/8 and then have your track in 5/8 or whatever. But we just do it to be really clear what we are trying to do here. So also let's lower the tempo a little bit. Let's make it here. Let's make this 100. So we have that 5/8 right now. So as I said, I'm just sitting here trying to come up with something and saying, hey, Race, glad you made it. I heard just in the Discord chat that you weren't sure that you will be here. So good to see you. And we have this pattern. We just came up with that pattern of 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2. And if we just add this, 3 plus 2 is 5. So we have 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2. So already we not just have created a 5/8 rhythm, but we already have an idea going for this rhythm. So I just have to go over here and just check the volume that it's not too, well, that's my voice. So just to come up with some, I just loaded damage here because I think this is like a library everyone kind of has. So when you just want to come up, so let's just fool around with that and let's record the basic accents of 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2. So let's just. So this is our basic thing we have here. And now you already got this little concept or an idea of what to do or how to continue your new rhythm, because you already have the basic structure set out of 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2. So let's just continue and just try to fill these things up, because we could 1 2 3 1 2 1. Okay, let's just record that. So what I did is basically just, let me just fill in. Get up. Let's just make this a little bit. I hope. Oh shit! I also should change. Sorry. I still have to get used to this. So I changed this. I changed the window layout. So now you can see everything. Yes. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's always like 5/8 is always something like, it sounds a little bit stumbling, but in a sense it sounds kind of noble and cool, because if you listen, I can recommend that when you want to get into commercial examples of odd time, odd signature, odd meter, a very good resource is listening to music of Sting. This is just, 5/8, Shape of My Heart. Then there's on the 10 Summoner's Tales, there's this country track. I always forgot, when I'm talking about track names, I always forgot these. Love is Stronger Than Justice. Is it the name? It's like this. So it's 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1. So it's 7 4 or 7 8, however you want to count it. And yes, 5/8 always sounds very noble when you think of no, it's not Shape of My Heart, it's 7 Days. So that's a pretty good resource if you want to get familiar with odd meter, but in a very traditional or good sounding sense, that you always hear the pulse going. Because this is the complicated thing. It's not just using, everybody can use 5/8, 7/8, 11/8, whatever. But the cool thing is when you make it sound commercial. And that's what I also want to get to. But for now, we have this idea, this little thing here. So now we can just go on, and all we need is to fill up Let's just fool around a little bit. Let's do this. No, I just fucked it up. Okay, so we just need this. So we just copy that over, and let me turn this down a little bit here and copy that over. And so to make it a little bit more interesting, let's come up with something which is that it's not just, you know, because as I mentioned in my stream on Monday, 2 days ago, I was talking about my demo I was writing for the Medusa, for musical samplings, Medusa, and I always like to come up with something where it's a little bit of a variation in a groove. That's a little bit too loud here too. So we can do something like, oh, let's use the higher toms, and let's make it a little bit like a, and we can turn this up a little. So let's loop this. Oh, got to turn on the grid. Let's turn this up a little bit. So now we already have a pretty nice, you know, idea of coming up with stuff. But the thing is, what I want to say is that you, instead of just deciding we go 5/8, you just start counting in this 1 2 3 and 1 2 or 1 2 3 1 2 method, and just come up with something. So let's go for an too quick. Let's come up with something else, and maybe, you know, let's just fool around with something like what basically sounds good when we just count it. So 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2. So if you count 7 8, usually it would probably 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So you would always come up, maybe I'm just assuming this, you would always come up with some 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1 2 3 4 5. So you put the accent on the 5 because you finish the first 1 2 3 4 and then get the accent because you're used by working in 4 4. Okay, so when you count 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2, let me just change the signature here again. Let's make it 7 8. So I mean, basically pretty everything is open here. You try to come up with something in 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and you don't know. So but if you just use the counting as the inspiration, saying 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2, so you already got a nice little idea, which I'm just going to record the accents. 2 3 4 5 6 7. I should also record 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2. Okay, so there we got our accents. And now just, you guys also hate this always when you just want to get down here, but you move it up a little bit here and hit the loop to set it to loop. It makes me crazy. Okay, so we got a nice little idea for 7 8, And we didn't really try to come up with a 7/8, but we just counted 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. I'm just trying to understand. You could it like it's 3.54 if you get that. I don't know what you mean. Maybe like counting it 1, 2, 3, dun, dun, 2, 3, dun, dun. Do you mean like just seeing it as a half quarter or something? Yeah, the loop function, right? So when you listen to this, you could just sit there, you know, just for whatever, 5 minutes and just listen to these accents. So I have this idea of just going. Or maybe we could do. Or we could do. So this is also some kind of a, not really like a metric modulation or a rhythmic modulation, but in a sense, sort of fish. It could be. Let me just try if I get this right. Oh, let's just take out the loop. Otherwise, I'm recording. So what I did basically is just this group of 3, and I just move it. It could be all here. So let's just make this more obvious right now. Sorry, wrong. Bring this up a little. So, and what I'm doing here right now is just move this back so we have the last on this one here. So you get a nice variation going on. Well, you can send it. I could try to listen to it, but I think I understand what you mean when you count it like 3.5 something. Or what are you trying to say? Just try to just try to describe it. So let's just. What else do we do? Well, let's use the brushed ones. What's always nice is when you don't really, you want to add some pace to the track, but you don't know how. Always a good thing is just to add 8 notes to give it also some sort of a pulse. So we could. You could also play 16th notes. But let's just do 8 notes. Okay. Let's just make this a little bit more even here. And what you could also do is pretty cool is when you do some pickups. And let's just go. So let's also do some variations of these. Let's make one like this. So basically it's just da-da-dum, and here it's da-da-da-da-dum. A little bit nicer here. So we got... That's a little bit too soft. Let's rate this one too. Oh, let's raise this one too. Let's give it a little bit more accent here. You should also copy it over to this part, like this. So we could also go on and do it like this. So we have another variation at the end. Okay, so we don't need this one. Now if we loop it, so that sounds pretty cool, pretty majestic in a sense. Maybe it sounds like some, you know, emperor's army is you know, approaching another kingdom and you see them all marching or something. But something like this, a battle preparation, and you're not really sure what's going on. And so this is always a good kind of when you use odd meter, it's always a little bit funny, always a bit good to use it when you want to, you know, bring a little bit of, let's say, tension to a situation, to a scene or whatever. So you want to make the viewer not really sure what is going on. You know what I'm trying to say? So it's the same with what Howard Shore was using in Lord of the Rings when he was doing the orc theme, like the dun 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 dun. So it's always this theme is always in 5/8, and it sounds a little bit clumsy in this sense when they were just trying. It actually uses the same accents, 1 2 3 1, I think. Something like this, and it sounds a little bit clumsy. So you see that army of orcs and also the goblins and stuff running around. Yeah. So we could go on now and say, okay, now we combine these things. So you could come up with something like what we counted. I mean, you know, the sky's the limit here. You could say like 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2. So you would basically just do it as we did before. Just I should probably but I mean, you get the idea. I should have to change the rhythm again. But what I want to come up with now is a little bit more when we go back to 4/4, now make use of these things and of this counting system, but try to get back into 4/4. So when we use, for example, let me just do this. Let me switch now to drums so you can see that this is pretty flexible when we do this. What I want to do is, let's stick with a figure 2 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So basically like 5, 8. But we don't want to count it 5, 8 right now. I want to just tell you that you're just using the counting method of 1, 2, 3. This method pattern method of dividing that rhythm into this 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, because what I want to try now is go back to 4, 4. So when you play this, okay, so you get the idea. We just try to come up and make it even again in a 4, 4 setting. So what I'm doing right now is just playing one of these patterns here. Well, let's just use 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So what you can see, and now it gets a little bit confusing. Hope you guys see that all right. And also let's go back to 8 notes and let's just, so now you can see it a little bit better. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. The next accent would be here, right? So we copy that over. Yes, please don't ask again. 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So we now continue to do that. And you can already see above here, this is my 4, 4. This is 4 beats, 4 bars. So now I want to make this pattern fit into the 4, 4 bar. So the next would be here. And let's just delete these. And now you can see that the end of this would be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. So we would have one additional 2, 4 thingy at the end. And now we have this pattern. When you listen to it, try to turn up the click a little bit. And now we would have one full 4 bar. So this is what I'm trying to do, is come up with that, you know, use this pattern, these patterns of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, or whatever you want to count, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, whatever, make it fit into a 4, 4 bar. And you can come up with some pretty interesting ideas. So let me just add a simple halftime beat over it. Let's quantize that. Okay, so and now we add a snare, and we do it also. We had the only thing we do is the bass drum pattern is playing that rhythmic variation, this pattern of 3 and 2, or the 5 pattern, the 5/8 pattern, and the snare and the cymbals are playing the 4/4. So we mix up these things with kind of a polyrhythm, or I don't know all these, you know, expressions, how you call this, if it's polyrhythm or rhythmic modulation or magic modulation or metric modulation or whatever. So let's just make use of it. Okay, this is our little pattern here, and now let's just let me just fire up my guitar. I also prepared a track here. So we just come up with some tiny little, let's make it double. Okay, So now we got this thing. Let me just grab my guitar here. Just have to fiddle around a little bit. Because there's nothing more annoying than trying to play guitar when you have speakers. I should plug it in. Okay, so now we got our guitar. I already set up. I should probably also. Yeah, I'm talking to the. I'm talking through the. What is going on here? Oh, okay. Okay. Let's tune it. So, okay, I'm just trying to come up with some guitar. I'm using the using the archetype plugin again by Neural DSP, which is pretty cool. Can come up with some pretty cool sounds. I hope you can see the guitar all right, but it's not that important. I just want to show you that how you can so I'm just using this kind of a dissonant diminished chord, and I'm just trying to fill up that pattern here. So it's just like a. Let me just switch on the microphone so you hear that. So it's just not very well played. A very well played part, but it's just here to give you an idea on how to fill that. So, okay, so just to give you an idea of what to do and how to come up with and, you know, playing that little part, making it a little bit more musical. And now you can adapt this thing to other styles. So let me just unplug the guitar again. Okay, I need an assistant here. So no, I just want to use this pattern and bring it over to drums, to percussion ensembles, and just proceed here and use this as you know, to make it more, you know, trailerish. Or hey Xenos, how are you? you know, to use it in a, let's say, in an orchestral context or something. So let's just come up with that. I'm just using the drums as an orientation, but I could just, you know, just get rid of it. So just play this basic figure here for 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. So this is our basic thing here. And let's copy that. So these are our basic accents here. And now we can get rid of the, let's just get rid of the drums and just keep it entirely. Let's use some 8 notes over it. So, and now come up with some accents which would probably resemble let's use the sticks. Let's use a combination of this brushed and these high toms. And I just try to just play the snare, you know? So 1, 2. So this, what happens here is basically the same concept like we used before when we did this with drums. So it sounds like a pretty cool groove already. Let's use these, just fool around a little bit here. Yeah, let's not make this cymbals in the sense of just using something which is just adding pulse, but there's just a few accents here, also from the sticks. So let's just do it. Go back to 16th. And just copy that over. Okay, like this. And to add a little bit of variation, again, let's just make this one longer by 2 bars, by extend it like 2 16th notes. And also let's compress it and bring it up again, so it's a little bit more even. Could use some more. Let's just make it a little bit more obvious. like this. Whatever, just double it. Okay, so yeah, let's just, you know, to add something melodical. I wouldn't make it even more confusing. Maybe I mean, this shouldn't be there to confuse people, but just be there to add something interesting. But you still stay in 4/4, but something is. Let's bring up the accents a little bit more. Okay, let's just create another instrument here. Let's come up with a contact. With a contact 6 instance and load some nucleus strings in here. Just load the full strings. Spiccato. Let's go to advanced and set the sample start to 0. So let's use some simple things here. No, we're just trying to... Let me just play it like this. I fucked it up. I'll just do it again. Okay. Okay, so we just need one. And let's quantize this again. Oh, what's always good, just to come back to the percussions once again. When you go in here and you just select them all and you just go for randomize and, you know, something between like 5 to 8 ticks, whatever, and just put in a little bit of hit the Q again for quantization. Let me just listen. Let's listen to this, how it sounds before I do this. Okay, and now I quantize it, and then it sounds like this. Just undo it. And redo it. So you hear a little bit of flamps going on. I could make it more obvious by making it like, you know, something like 15 ticks. Just quantize it again and see how this sounds. It's always almost a little bit too much, but in a sense it still works. So let's stick with 9 maybe. So you hear a little bit of, so what's happening here is that when you quantize these, and they always move around a little bit. So I can set it, you know, this is randomly 8 ticks from the let's say the standard, let's say this 3, or wherever you are, the 2, 3, whatever on the beat. So we got some little quantization going on, but we are going to get rid of this quantization for the strings for this pattern. So we just I should also get out of solo mode. That helps. So now it sounds pretty boring. What we could do is come up with some different things where we could say we just try to fool around and make it just we should definitely get into a resolve thing here. Okay, let's. So what we do here, okay, so we basically made combined or merged both of these concepts together. So we sticked with a pattern 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 and so on, but we also resolved it on the on the 4 and go back into the 1, so we can let everyone know, hey, this is 1. So you're not getting confused, but you're just enjoying that pattern, but it's not there to confuse you. And of course, you can go in and something like this, just to come up with something real quick. And okay, so I think you get the idea, and we could also come up with something else. And I hope that this is, so far it shouldn't be really hard to understand. So it's basically it's pretty simple, a pretty simple concept, but you can come up with some really cool, or it helps you to come up with something really cool. By not thinking about, so it sounds pretty natural. I mean, we could also, come over and just from the drums. Let's see how this sounds with drums. Yeah, sounds pretty cool. So you could also bring in some guitar, and I don't want to record new guitars here. So I was tuning to D, so I recorded this, I think, in C sharp. So it doesn't fit. Terrible. But I mean, you can come up with something pretty cool. Okay, the true peak. What should be the true peak value for the absolute final master? As close as 0 you can get. So let's just try this. Let's just come up with this. I already set up the invisible limiter here, and I always said, of course, I'm getting a little bit louder right now, but I think that's okay. It's limited, so nothing should happen. I always set it to minus 0.1 dB, because this is the closest. Of course, you could set it to minus 0.01 dB, but the most important thing is that you never get it. I mean, technically, I think, as I learned it, you could also go to 0 directly, but I know the closer to 0 it is, there are some systems which already see 0 as clipping. And nothing should happen, but if you play it back with whatever professional audio software and suddenly somebody sees like something red on a mastered track, this is always like something you want to avoid. You know, it's kind of like somebody speaking and he was about to cough, but didn't really. So it sounds a little bit funny when there is a professional speaker and he's like, you know, doing something like this. So I try to avoid it and set it to minus 0.1 dB, if that answers your question. But of course you can set it to minus 0.5. You could leave as much headroom as you want. But if you have production music, the most important thing is get it at as close to 0 as possible, but don't try to squash it. So, you know, to come back to that loudness war or whatever. I just tend to forward to look always that there is a little bit of Of course, you could set up that beat way louder, but I think it's okay when it sometimes clips, so you have enough headroom that you don't destroy, let's say, your music. Of course, the more you add on instruments, this is another thing. It will behave totally different. Also, if I would work with a compressor, but yeah, that should be the thing. Yeah. I mean, I'm not really sure, to be honest, but I think if you stay below 0.1 dB or whatever, basically these artifacts could jump over if you have it rendered on 0, exactly on 0. This is where the artifacts could jump over to make it actually become a positive value. But yes, but I think, I mean, everybody is fine so far when I do like 0.1. Minus 0.1 masterings. So I all the time had it like minus 0.2, but I decided to just save on that 0.1%. Okay, let's try with something else and not make it regularly, but just try to mess up these things. So let's come up with several patterns and try to combine these. So let's just let's come up with something. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2, which would be a 4/4. It could be different. It could be funny too to have it like 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2, because when do you count a 4/4 like this? 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2. I mean, of course, yeah, if you just play it like this, it's actually a pretty simple pattern. Oops, just wanted to. So, and let's come up with something else here. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. So, I mean, of course, you would take a little bit more time sitting there and saying what cool stuff you could come up with when you just count. So not make it like this quick as I do it right now, but for the sake of easiness, we would come up with something like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, which would resolve in having a 5/8 and a 7/8 at the end. So we could do it like this. Let's add this 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 2, 3, 1, 2, ba. So the next point, the next hit would be here. So we have 1, 2. Let's just make it a little bit bigger again and more obvious and more visible. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. So this would be the next hit. So we just copy that. And I mean, this is pretty easy right now because it would be a 4/4 and a 5/8. So if you split it up to 8/8 and 5/8, becomes more obvious, better to count. So it's 13/8. And we also want to make this a full 4/4 bar. So what we would do is like adding 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, done. So here would be the next. And this is pretty cool because it's exactly here on that next one. But as you know, we have a 13/8 and it needs 16/8 to get to the beat. So you would have one additional 3. So we would have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, done. This is where the fun time starts. So we add this pattern like this, and then we have set up our, let me just do it like this, buff here so it gets more obvious. Just copy that over. So we always have one. Yes, of course. I mean, that's always also a good thing when you have it 11/8 and you count it like 6/8 and 5/8. So you basically count 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So this is the cool thing about you can come up with whatever you want, and you can come up with some really complex stuff. I mean, you could even count it like 16th notes, like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. You can come up with whatever you want. And as you hear sometimes when you have like these absolutely amazing professional Indian percussionists sitting along, so they come up with all kinds of things, and it's all like rhythmic variations. And there is one video you have to check out on the web. I don't know how to find it, how you name it, but maybe like Indian traditional counting, something like this. There is this video of one guy where he's just keeping an 11/8 or a 15/8, and he's just doing all these variations over it. And it's like your mind will, your brain will explode when you watch it, and when you really understand what is going on, what he's doing in that video. Yes. So this is so as I said, the first example here is some kind of really easy thing to do because we have a simple 5/8. Then we have a 7/8 here. And then we had this example here with guitar and drums, which is basically 5/8, but over 4/4, and always resolving it. I mean, that lick is just a little bit stupid, but diminished licks always sound a little bit stupid, so should probably come up with something else. And you could also split it up, not like da 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 da, but you could also da 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 da, something like this. So it's totally free as long as you stick with a pattern. And then what did we do here? We just applied the same thing to orchestral stuff. Okay, and now we have this idea of just combining several ones. So you basically proceed in the same sense like doing it here. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. And then you have an additional 1, 2, 3, and then you come back to 1. And just to make it more obvious, with drums above it on top. Actually, we could use this part and just copy that over and just use the symbols of that. And this is where it starts to get beautiful, because your mind is going by your brain, because it's trained to be in 4/4. Because this is just the traditional rhythm. As far as I know, the traditional or the original rhythm was like 3/4 or 6/4, but then I'm not really sure if that's the story, but because of, you know, marching and you know, making it all strict 1, 2, 3, 4, because it's easier to say left, right, than just left, left, right, left, left, right, or something. It makes more sense to be, you know, to come to that. It sounds a little bit more sorted. But I think when we listen to 6/8, it starts to get really 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. It sounds more tribalish, but that what is in our, you know, DNA. Because we're just used to hear a 3/4 or 6/8 for millions of, not billions, 100,000 millions of years. I don't exactly know how long the Homo sapiens is around right now, and I don't want to Google it, but you get the idea. So let's just add some strings to that. Let's just okay. Shit. Well, we just need 8. I always confuse the rubber and the cutting tool. So I just did one mistake here. am I doing? So. That's it. I just played an additional one, so. Okay, so that's it. And let's copy these. Yeah, we'll definitely listen to that track. I just don't want to open, these tracks in the video and listen to this, because the last time I think I did it on the ultimate on the Storm Choir Ultimate Edition demo. We listened to that Lord of the Rings track, and I got a copyright claim, and I want to avoid of stuff happening. So, but I will definitely listen to it later. It's just. So now we could do the same and go for the figures, like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, and change the notes or the rhythm depending on when the figure is over, like the 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2. So basically the 7 and the 5. Or let's try this. Oh, I think I did. Oh, right. We have to be careful because. So we could come back to the original one. So we do the same here. We followed this pattern we followed one pattern, we followed two patterns, and then we just followed as long as it goes up to the 4/4 again. This doesn't sound as good, so probably we should just do it like that. We just make it in the sense of 4/4. This one down here. Okay. Okay, so this sounds pretty interesting. Yes, to be honest, I'm quantizing everything. from the beginning till the very end, because the thing is, I could, of course, I will always add humanization to this, but the simple reason is when you just play something, I could of course be a very trained piano player, instrumentalist in general, and I could play as close to the rhythm as possible, to the click as possible. But because of latency, it will always happen that depending on, I might just have to put on a tape machine plugin of, I think, the Slate tape machine plugin. The latency is so big, so huge. If you play something and you have this thing already in there, you simply have to quantize. So I'm always quantizing, and I put in a little bit humanization on the very end to make it a little bit more human. I even quantize, sometimes I quantize orchestral recordings because you simply have to do it, because you always add heavy percussion to it. And of course you have to quantize it when the orchestra played. Well, they always play with click, obviously, but it sometimes happens that you have to quantize some string parts or so, because sometimes they get a little bit slower, or sometimes when you especially have an orchestra playing to click, it's the click is not that important to the orchestra or to the trained. I may be totally wrong here, but my experience is when you have an orchestra playing, they are not used to play with a click, in a sense of when it's a studio, when it's when they have a lot of studio experience, or when it's a trained orchestra, of course they can play to click. But I would say compared to a trained guitar player, they always train everything with click, while a traditional, let's say a traditional orchestra, a musician is always trained to play more to feeling and to the conductor. So this is the guy who's giving the tempo. And so this sometimes gets a little bit confusing when you have orchestral recordings. And then what are you guys understanding when you listen, when you hear click? And every trained professional guitar player or drummer or whatever would always not sort of outperform a traditional orchestra musician when it comes to click. This is my point of view from my experience. Of course, when you have all these guys in LA or Budapest or Prague or wherever you have London, where you have really orchestral musicians who are trained to play click, because they because they know their recording will be dubbed with percussions or samples. These guys are of course pretty much trained, but yeah, just flying along when it comes to quantizing stuff. Knew we could come up with something. Just some easy example like of we could now come up with some little melodic variation and divide this pattern also up and make use of something, because the bass notes follow now the 4/4 pattern, but we could go in and say 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3. Okay, do something like this. I think I did a mistake here somewhere. Let me just... So this is where the pattern ends. So basically I just have to copy that over from here. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 now I just have to copy that over here too. And what we could do now is just, you know, set it to simple copy 8BA, an octave above, and just have a little bit of so, and we already came up without saving. We didn't save one time. Just had to catch up on that. So I also want to mention that again, you know, as I probably mention in every video, when I save, I always use Control Alt and S because it gives you should see that all right here by using save new version, because I can't mention that often enough, because when you save new version and it adds a -0.2 right now, and when I save it again, it's 3. Now I save it again, it's 4. So you never lose a session. This will be the very last time when you use this that you will ever lose a session. It doesn't matter even if you just open the plugin and if you get used to saving. I mean, this video is probably the best example, you know, save all the time, save, because I'm really saving like every 5 to 10 minutes. Every time I finished playing a line, I open a new plugin, I just, you know, save my session. But this can be very helpful, especially when you know, just load a crappy plugin and then the session is corrupted. This saves you the day when you just try to come, especially when you are, you know, having some hardcore deadline. Thanks for liking this arrangement. Yeah, it's pretty basic. I mean, it's just what you come up with in a short amount of time, but it's just there to show you how you can use like these odd meter approaches. And so on. There is also, we still have some time, I would just go over and just quickly come up with something which is another approach to odd meter stuff. And you probably, if you know Dream Theater, let me just go for with the example of the track is called Mirror. And we have to maybe lower the tempo a little bit. And there is something going on in that track. And the moment I found that out, I just freaked out because I had no clue of what was going on there. So seriously, this was the point when I... and you probably know the track I'm talking about. So there is something going on in that track. So I'm using 16th notes for this example, and make this a little bit slower here. Just go down to 70 something. And make this a little bit more even. So what I'm doing right now, this is, I will just come up with that. So like a line, and then add some drums over it, which play. Simple 4/4 beat. Okay. And what I'm doing right now is, this is probably the wrong approach, what I'm doing right now. But when you change the beat to, let's see what happens. Just have to come. I probably did it the wrong way. I I should do it the other way around. I fucked it up. I'm sorry. Okay, just raise the tempo again. Yeah, I did something wrong here. Let's make it like this. Let's make this bring back to 110 or something. Okay, so the other way around. Okay, now I got it. I just told the joke from the very end. So you heard Dream Theater, you know the song Mirror. So they use this pattern. I mean the guitar, let me just play this with strings so we don't have to. So you hear that drum beat, right? Let me just copy this for a few times. And this is the drum beat you're hearing. Something like this. So let's record this. 3, 4. So this would be the simple beat. Now what you're hearing is... bleh. See, this is what I mean. When I not quantize, what happens here is that you start sort of... But I mean, it's probably down to my bad, playing. So what I'm doing wrong right now is that I try to quantize it to, no. I have to go to triplets, of course. So. So what I want to come up with right now is that when you have this pattern again, but you change the drum beat to... I will do that right now when I'm playing. So what is basically happening is that it gets pretty obvious when you let me just move this over and let me just play it. Okay, so just for this, and now let me just quantize this again. And if you see that, what's basically happening is wait, let me just pull up both. Let me just clean it up a little bit here. Okay, so now when you see these both, okay, so the one thing is happening that we have a 4/4 beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. But since we have these patterns of triplets here, okay, but they are apart. Let me just come up with another grid. So you can see that here. There is, can you see that all right in the window? You have this 1, 2, 3. ein Tata, zwei Tata, drei Tata, vier Tata. So it would count like this: one Tata, two Tata, one and one Tata. How do you call it in English? I always count in German. Whatever. So it's one Tata, two Tata. Always counted like these, but it's one triplet in between. So it's one ta ta, and then it's two ta ta three. Okay, and the last one is one enda, or you can count one enda. Right, that's how I did it. Now I could brain fart. Okay, one enda, two and a three. Okay, so it always shifts with one triplet in between. But it always comes back on this one beat because it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 E, and then you have a space again, and then you have this figure again. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah, one, a 2, a 3, a 4. Yeah, right. So, but what happens right now is that with that new pattern, you can see that when there is like 1, 2, 3, and there is one rest, 1, 2, 3. You could say that this is also an even pattern for when you put the snare at the bass drum on the first of this 1, 2, 3, and then rest again, and then the snare on the next of that triplet of this group of 3 here, and then again you put the bass drum on the group of 3. So you basically, and since it resolves again on the end of 2 beats, you're back in the beat. So this is also some kind of metric modulation. You basically adapt to a new rhythm from another instrument, and this can become very confusing. This is what also happens when you, play stuff. Let me just. So what's basically happening that you just switch to the end on the other beat, and this is, I mean, the very basic concept of what Meshuggah and all these, odd meter bands are doing, that they just, I try to come up, if I can do that, 1 and a 2, 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 5 and a 3. Oh, I always fuck it up at the end. 1 and a 1 and a 3 and a. Something like this, okay? So you vary the figures on a beat and try to come up and adapt to a different pattern. So you could also do something. Let's just record this. Now we have this beat here. So let's shift this 1/16th note. I'm sorry, I'm still in triplets here. I should go back to 16th. Right. Like this. And then you're back on the 1. So you're just shifting it through the patterns of 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. But you leave the snare, okay, on the 2. So and 1 and move it around. So you can come up with some pretty funny stuff. I mean, there's really no end, and I think you get a pretty good basic idea on all these different patterns. Let's just, go through that one by one. Simple 5/4 in the beginning. Then we had a 7/8. But let me just play these again by making the MIDI notes obvious here. Oh, sorry, yeah. So that's the 7/8. Okay, then we had this example of 5/8 in between a 4/4 rhythm. Let me just play this once again by making this more visible here. Okay. And then the next one was the same for orchestra. That's kind of weird to have the percussion notes and the strings. Well, whatever. Okay, and here we got this. What we did here? Just have to listen to it. I don't even remember. Oh yeah, we combined the 7/8. So 1 2 3 1 2 3. So the 4/4 and the 5/8. Okay, and then again, we just talked about, the dream theater focus stuff. Okay, so I mean, obviously on the record they stick in this rhythm all the time, but just towards the end of the phrase, they always go to that. Okay, so yeah, this is like, I mean, enough material to give you some inspiration, to get it going, to come up with some ideas. And remember that as long as you split everything up to 3 and 2, you can come up with everything you want. And of course, you can, have like a 1 in between or something when you have a 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 1 2 3 1 2 1. But it always makes a little bit more sense by having, I mean, a 1. When you add a 1, you get from 3, and you add a 1, you have 4. It's always again 2 2. When you add a 2 and a 1, you always have a pattern of 3. So you can always stick with a pattern of either 3 or 2. So just in case, if you don't have any question, I would call it a day for this night. And yeah, I would just say thank you for watching. Just in case you don't have anything, you still want to know about this kind of stuff. Yeah, thanks for a masterclass. Well, yeah, solid 1.5 hours on all this odd meter stuff. But I hope it was pretty helpful. And yes, so I would say I'm not really sure. Actually, I will be online tomorrow again. I will be streaming again tomorrow, and I will introduce. I hope it all goes well, but I will introduce. I had the chance to check out a copy of Divisi Mate, which is pretty cool when you when you are, especially what I'm not, a trained or a good playing pianist, piano player, keyboard player, whatever, and you want to split out, you want to play an ensemble, but you want to have it split out for each of the instruments, or combine several instruments, but have the MIDI files, the MIDI information of a full chord split out to each of these instruments. And automatically distribute specific voices to these things. So this is a pretty cool thing. If you're interested in that, you can just, come back and chime in. And what libraries did I use today? Yeah, I should probably talk about this for a second because I didn't pull up anything. Okay, so you know what I'm covering tomorrow. For the drums, I was using the Modern and Massive drums by Get Good Drums, which are actually the Periphery guys. I think it wasn't Matt Halpern, the drummer of Periphery, who played these, but I really like these sounds because they sound modern and they have this kind of a smack which cuts through everything, and I just like it. It's just my to-go drum set whenever I'm going to record. Actually, when I just go to big and epic drums, I definitely have to say that I, especially since doing my little video about Medusa, or when checking out my, when writing my little piece, and when I was exploring Medusa on Monday by musical sampling, this has definitely become my most, let's say, epic drum library. But I will still use these for rock focused and more sharp through one guy playing a drum set in a traditional sense. The other thing, for my guitar, I used this plugin. Let me just pull that up again. It was the Archetype Nolly, which is again the bass player of Periphery. Let me just switch to the other screen again so you can see it better. You get a lot of stuff, like you get like pedals in the beginning, like before how to say, before you go to the amp, so before the input, then you get several amp models. You get a lot of stuff like oversampling, and the gate is pretty good actually. You have a Q setting. You also have a setting to record your amp, simulate the distance and everything. And you also got defects afterwards, which obviously would be delay and reverb. The next thing I did for the epic percussion is the traditional damage, the Armageddon ensemble. This is pretty cool. I used this. This was my to-go. It's still kind of my favorite epic because it sounds so epic, but it has actually quite aged a bit. So I'm trying to at least mix it up, or have other percussions as my main, because they still sound absolutely amazing. They still sound cut through like crazy. Still on the wrong channel. But I just want to, kind of evolve and go with some more up-to-date stuff. But they will always be a part of my palette, always, definitely. And the last thing, I should have named it. Let's name this it was Audio Imperia Nucleus. So let's name this appropriately. And yeah, I just love this library because it sounds so majestic. And you can easily switch back to the classic mix, and then you have like go back to the modern mix. Yeah, so these were the libraries I used in this little video. Okay, so I'm just reading if there was a question in between. Yes, of course, the video will go up on YouTube. I load everything except my very first. I just fucked it up. I forgot to set the little tick on Twitch that the video will be uploaded to or be recorded. But I go safe and I record every video right now also to my hard drive. So just in case if there's something going wrong, at the end of, you know, like the Twitch conversion or whatever, or some servers crashing, I still have it on my drive so I can always safely upload it to YouTube. To be honest, I just heard that there was a Nucleus Lite version was released, I think yesterday, today. I'm not really sure. I think it happened today. And I didn't even have a chance to check this out. But I mean, Nucleus in general is just it quickly became, you know, like the to-go section of library of choice to have, like, you know, in my template to have strings, brass and woodwinds and all the percussions of it, just to quickly be able, or let's say these are the only instruments which are not deactivated. So when I open my setup, these instruments will be right at hand. So I'm not only use them to sketch them up, but also, I mean, even if the sound is enough, if I don't want to you know, add Berlin strings or, you know, Junkie XL brass or go into details or anything, I just want to leave it with the Nucleus. I just have this right away. So this absolutely became my to-go library. And I know that Audio Imperia said that Nucleus is kind of like a starting up library, but I personally don't care if library is called a startup library or a professional library. The only thing I care about is that it sounds great or sounds good. And it definitely does. So that's why it became part of my a very big part of my template. Okay, so I would just suggest just go over to the Audio Imperia page and check it out. What actually we could do that right now, and if you want, we could just take this second and check it out. Already on there. So we have the light edition. So it's 79 intro. Yeah, that's like really a no-brainer. And let me just check where can you... I should go back to the live scene again here. So you go to shop now. Maybe we got to the... Okay, so we got these features here. Carefully selected essentials. Okay. So I mean, you can get it yourself, read about this on the Audio Imperia website. I'm just looking through this. So you probably get the full ensembles. I'm not really sure. I think they left out the, I'm just guessing here. I think they left out the solo strings, the solo instruments. But I mean, just check it for yourself because I don't want to give out some wrong information. Yes, there are some demos videos on here, so check that out. Definitely, it's definitely worth it if you think you want to go for the Nucleus sound, and definitely have to go and get this library. If you can't afford the full library, that's what I'm trying to say. Just get the light edition because the sound is absolutely amazing. I'm not really sure. I'm just teasing a little bit. Let me just load up another instance. And where you are. Let me just load up some of the solo instruments. The solo cello. It sounds so beautiful. Just have to. I think the legato is absolutely amazing. This is really Just, is there any chance to have contact sitting exactly where I left it so nothing gets like, you know, messed up? The solo violin. How to gent. Yeah, if you want, I mean, it should give you some basic ideas about, you know, how to come up with some genty stuff. Let me just, for the sake of just, let me just load the flute again. So I'm not really sure if the solo instruments are in there. Just check it on the Audio Imperial website. I'm pretty sure when you watch the video, listen to the demos, there will be a great walkthrough, as there always is with all of their instruments. But I really can recommend it if you're looking for a startup orchestra library. This is definitely the stuff you want to have, and it's really like a great out-of-the-pocket sound. Okay, so I think I would just call it a day. If you missed anything of the video, you can catch it up probably on YouTube tomorrow. This should be then ready to be encoded. And yeah, I would just say thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. And again, I will be there tomorrow in the evening. I'm not really sure, probably like something that like the same, like 9 or 10 Central European time. And yes, so thanks again for watching and hope to see you tomorrow then. Bye-bye.